Okay. Okay. So, Robin.
Okay, so I think as many of you probably already know, I've been, talking with Elizabeth Boyd, directs UC Braid, presenting to their leadership, trying to get this consortium to be considered part of, one of their efforts or programs for the year. So one of the reasons they're not presenting is they did ask us to provide additional information, including a projected 2-year timeline along with like metrics and reporting that we could report on to them. I haven't had a chance to talk to you guys since this happened, so I didn't really feel comfortable putting anything on paper without talking with this group collectively. But when talking with the UCLA CTSI leadership team, they felt that what is important here for UC Braid is they want to make sure that all of the UCs are committed and have an interest in participating because, I can say whatever I want about the metrics that we'll be asking for and tracking, but if any one of the UCs has no interest in participating, we'll never get data from them. So I kind of wanted to throw it out to the group, maybe for of a discussion, but when I was thinking through what do metrics look like for this team, I really don't want this to be burdensome. I don't want it to be something that's going to be beyond what you're already tracking yourself individually for your work. So, um, I was thinking something even just along the lines of, if we had a champion for each of the UCs that was willing to work with me on an annual basis, so only once per year, for 2 years. And it could include something as simple as like sending out a survey and just getting, user feedback from people who have or are participating in this group just to see if, we are providing the support and resources, information that make this consortium worth participating in. I don't know that we need to go beyond that, although if people were really interested, my team specifically tracks, the number of training grants we support, how many mentors, how many postdocs versus pre-docs, our success rate, the amount of hours we're putting into projects, just to demonstrate sort of the scope and depth of the effort that we're putting into individual projects. And the idea is tracking that over time to show how either streamlining or centralizing support services hopefully reduces that burden while increasing our success rate. Um, but that is something we're doing independently outside of what I think Braid is really asking. So I have put together a draft of a proposal for UC Braid to support us. They had indicated, I think they were willing to provide up to $10,000 for us per year for supporting these efforts. Um, in the presentation, which was basically the same presentation I gave you guys a few months back, they sort of picked a couple of topics that they were really interested in. So that it seemed like they would be willing to support. So that's really what the proposal is about. And then I just tied that into, what a 2-year timeline might be, including like us meeting regularly, hopefully having that in-person meeting, um, those kinds of things. So I'm happy to share those with the team after the call if anybody wants to read it or provide feedback. But I think the important thing for today is just to talk through, if we could identify a champion from each of the UCs that'd be willing to sort of formally participate or just be sort of my point person in order to help determine what metrics we should gather and things like that. Thank you, Nova. That's very helpful. That's really what I'm here to do. And I think once we have that on paper, then UC Braid will be willing to come and talk to us about I think what we had talked about initially was the letter that some of you are working on and what advocacy to the UC office, the president, to our chancellors and things like that, what that might look like. So does anybody have any questions?
So when you say like every single UC, I mean, I'm
So UC Braid is made up of the UCs that have medical campuses. So I think in terms of priority, they would like the UC medical campus sites at a minimum, and then anybody else who is interested in participating in this group. So, and I think based on who participates in these calls monthly, I think UCLA, San Diego, Irvine, all pretty much in just because I see you all on the call every time. Um, but having sites like, Santa Cruz, Berkeley would also be helpful as well, because I think you guys have, I mean, you all have these T32s as well, and we're all sort of in this together. But in terms of UC Braid, I think it's sort of a priority. Is like they absolutely need the UC Braid sites, and then having as many of the other UCs as possible would also be very help
Okay.
strengthen that
Yeah, because
support.
it's, I mean, obviously the big one, the big, like Davis, we can get, those covered. I know like Riverside, we haven't had a lot of interaction from Riverside or Santa Cruz. I mean, and
Hmm.
that's something I can do more publicity on, so yeah, and even at like Merced, we even have like one very excited PI. So I think they would probably
Okay.
be our point person. Um, but yeah, I mean that's something that we can I don't know if you want to put out something to the listserv, like you're looking for one point of contact for each
Hmm.
like maybe just we have one for the, obviously you and I or whatever I don't know, we could do something like that. Let's work together, Robin, and then
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
I need to do some more research on finding more UC Santa Cruz and Riverside folks. Um, so and Berkeley, I don't think
Yeah.
Berkeley is involved as they could be. So I've talked to more to, UCSF people. Anyway,
Okay. Yeah, that would be great.
so I do have a follow-up question because UC Brave was going to help us with the letter. So should we, and I remember you had kind of mentioned that they would give us like the parameters. You can't, I guess you can't just write a letter to the chancellor, right? I thought you could just hit him up, but you can't. So
Well, you can. It's just
you
whether it'll be
can, but it's not
received
going to go anywhere.
appropriately or not. There
Yeah.
apparently are some,
Yeah.
considerations. So, um, yeah, Elizabeth Boyd had mentioned when I first talked to her that she has a lot of expertise in how to develop appropriate specific recommendations to these sort of campus leadership groups that we may not have had a lot of engagement with, like the Office of the President. I mean, I personally, it's been, probably decades since I've engaged with them in any formal capacity. So, I think that's probably when we have her come and speak, that's what her talk would be focused on. I don't know if Jill or anybody else who's working with you on that advocacy letter have had any updates since then or been working on it,
Yeah,
but we might want to just look at it
honestly,
again and see if we want to
I know,
refresh
and
it.
I feel kind of bad because I have not been able, I mean, I'm just swamped right now with the 525 deadline. I've got 4 renewals going in. And I think everybody's just super busy, right? So no, that has not been my highest priority. After 528, because I think really the deadline is 528. I did want to get more focused on this summer for sure. So UC Brighton, now Elizabeth, would she give us advice on the letter, even if UC Bray didn't fully like endorse us? Do you know what I mean?
I would really have to talk to her about that. I
Oh,
know she's
okay,
interested in doing
okay,
so one way or the
okay.
other, but
Well, or is there
as the
somebody?
director of the grade, I don't know if she would be allowed to or not. So, yeah, let me make a note of that, and I'll talk to her
Well,
about
I'm
that
just thinking,
because that's a
because
great
like you just said,
point.
Robin, like you've had interactions with UCOP. I have never, I've been here for, I don't know, 27 years. I've never talked to anyone up there. And all I can do is say thank God I haven't, because I don't know, that just scares the crap out of me. So, but you know what I mean? Maybe if you find someone that has that kind of experience. I don't know how you would, right? But that could, guide us on that. Holly, did you have a thought on that?
why not the letter in particular? I mean, as far as the support of UC Bright is concerned and the amount that they offered was, as I understand it, was purely organizational, as in allowing us to be able to cover the cost perhaps of administration financially. That was my understanding. Is that correct?
Ultimately, I think it's up to us, but that would be a big portion of it. So, like, you know, especially if we were going to do an in-person event, we would need an administrator to work on that. I mean, I think it's something we're
Right.
all doing sort of free of charge, right?
Right.
Because something we're interested in, but have dedicated funds to be able to have somebody focused on doing that.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
is
that was okay. So that I was kind of going along the right lines. And so if just I'm strategizing, I'm thinking like what my personal long-term strategy is, what, and I don't think that we've actually talked about this beyond, just getting into the view of UC Braid. But if we do make the presentation and they do decide that, okay, they'll give us the money to help us limp along and do more things than just limp along, would we at that point be in a position to negotiate, for example, to get back to one of my pet topics, database support or other larger financial support? Would that make us more credible, let's say?
Yeah, I think so. Because also one of the other things I put in the draft proposal was to piggyback off of their database platform on their website. Because I know,
Right.
Jill, you've been having some problems with the setup that you've been working with. And I think, you know, UC Braid seemed open to like letting us like utilize their platform. And then the next expansion would then be having them support, provide funding to maybe develop that in a more formal way.
Okay. That's,
'Cause
I
they
mean, that's,
do, they have experience with that.
yeah.
And so it's like, instead of recreating a wheel or like
Right.
us having to create an RFP to solicit ideas, we sort of use something that's already there that we know works for, you know, across the UC system.
Yeah. I
Could
just want
be
to make
quite a
sure that my ulterior motives don't get lost. So, okay.
Yeah.
I was just,
So you kind of alluded to the website. Yeah, that was another thing. Like, I really kind of would like to push forward with the website. And I mean, we were looking at UC Braid to host it. I'm going to show you guys the website I have for UCSD. It's password protected, but I want you guys to see it and kind of get an idea of what it includes. And I don't even know if it would be appropriate for the UC Braid website. I don't know. My internet, of course, is slow. So this is the training grant website that we host I host at UCSD, and it's on a health sciences server. It's not on the campus server. So there's always been a few issues with that. But so like I have, information on data tables. And okay, I'm doing table 1 and I want to understand something, or I want to go to reports and I want to see exactly how many training grants do we have at UCSD. And then I could just, download this, and I'm filling out my table 3 and I need that kind of data. Oops. And then, I have training on here. So, oops, under resources, you could go to the YouTube channel. You can look at all the prior office hours. You go, oh, I want us to have, slides on data tables 1 and 2, or whatever. I mean, there's multiple different topics, bio sketches, FERs, fund management stuff. I mean, there's a lot of information there. And I don't know if if UC Braid would even have been appropriate for this kind of information. Because I mean, I think this is the kind of information that the average administrator needs, right? And I don't know, I've just been kind of thinking, I don't know if that's something that we want to have on the UC Braid website. Anybody have thoughts on that?
But that's content that you have behind a
Behind its
UCSD
password.
specific paywall? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
the thought behind
yeah,
that is because you don't want it open to just anybody and everybody,
you
right?
know,
That's the idea.
we could. That's the thing. When it was initially created, they created it behind a password, protected, but I think some of it could be opened, or most of it. So yeah, and so I have looked into, I tried to do Google Sites and they shut me down. Our IT shut me down, but they said I could use our what we call our CMS system, which I can't remember, something management system, content management system. So we have something called Blink. Again, I'll show you our this is like, I don't know. This is my homepage. I mean, this is, you know, you can, it's your staff directory, it's kind of everything. And so if we went in here, I could go type in training grants, and then we can have our whole website on here. So, oh, well, I guess I was not going to show up as a staff person. So, I mean, if that's, but I'm more than willing to do that. They have offered this as a solution. And so we could have a website that's forward facing for everybody, but it would be on the UCSD website. So I don't know if, you know, if that's okay with everybody. I mean, the whole idea is we're a consortium, right? And that it would be nice to have it on a non, you know, one of the non-campus websites, but you know, like whatever. This website right here, when I put a search, this is our forward-facing website from our graduate division. And so it doesn't have a lot of information. It has some information about recent meetings. If you're submitting, you know, a grant, you know, how do you try to get matching funds? How do you get the institutional support letter? This is already forward facing. So I could probably, you know, maybe build this out if I wanted to and add in everything else that I could, you know, as much as I could. I just don't know if that's something the group wants to do. Do we want to wait for, you know, a third party like UC Braid to host it there?
I mean, anything that's possible that, and I don't know what the, you know, delineation point is between must be protected behind a password and can be open to the general public. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't think actually,
but
I mean, I think initially when they started my job like 10 years ago, when they started the website, I'm not quite sure what the thinking was behind it, because a lot of our stuff is not password protected. It doesn't need to be.
right.
So, you know, and I can always give affiliate access. I think I got like, I've given
So
Kelly and Robin affiliate access, but I don't want to have to do that for everybody. You know what I mean?
I think the main issue, just as a quick technological point, the primary issue with everything on Pulse is that it's a SharePoint based site, and you have to go through a pretty stringent process in order to give people guest access to a SharePoint site. So, whereas Blink, I guess, is open.
Yeah. CMS is,
I mean,
this is all
it seems like it's
management.
and it seems like it's like just an issue of moving the information from SharePoint into a different website.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
I
I mean,
mean,
no, that's not my only concern. My other concern was, do we want this website based at UCSD? Or is this something like, do we want to put on a third party like Wix or something or WordPress that we pay, you know, a little, I don't know what for. Do you know what I mean? Like a third party versus not just one campus. I don't want to.
Right. It does kind of signify ownership if it's all on one campus.
I think having it on a third party might be better, simply because if some person, say dean or something, got wind of, you know, it's on UCSD's site and it covers information from our university, would that cause a problem? You know, it might be more proactive to not have it on a UCSD site, simply because in the future somebody may have a problem with that, and rather than deal with it when it becomes a problem, you know, keep it from becoming a problem. I don't know, my opinion.
And
Go ahead, Yurka.
yeah, something that bothers some PIs for the reason why they want some of the data just behind password is because, for example, table 3, even though it's simple, it has all the faculty list for us. That's how I update it for them. So if we have 35 PIs, everybody's listed there, and they don't like it to be shared. So, and when I it's a burden to update, but it would have been better if we could just share. And then there are a couple of things that the PIs don't like. And the other thing is we have successful T32s that we keep, and those things they don't want to share out of the campus, things like that.
Yeah, and we could, I think, we could be like, for the table 3 or whatever, something like that. Hey, then contact this person or whatever. We can always do behind the scenes,
Yeah,
certain
we can
things
split
we
them.
ask.
Right, yeah.
I guess, like I said, it just was my concern. I don't mind hosting it, but I also don't want, people to think that, we're not equal as UC campuses on sharing information, I guess. I don't know how to put it correctly. So, I don't know, should we vote on that? Do we need Robert's Rule of Order? Anyway, we will move. How about I just move on and I'll just talk about some other updates besides the website and the chancellor's letter. So I did meet with the vice chancellor of health sciences. Guess it was I don't know, a couple of weeks ago now. And so we were talking about the deficits as far as with the GSRs, the pre-docs, and not the deficits for when it comes to training grants, of course, but also the deficits for all the UAW, all the grad students are they're going up. So we were basically went to the vice chancellor begging for money. And they want to give us a couple 100,000 and we need a couple million, right? So but we talked about, I figured this was my only chance to get in front of the vice chancellor. So I did a further pitch for training grants. So he was very sympathetic because he is a former T32 PI. He did not, I know, I thought that was good. And so he was very encouraging, but I've heard that before, so I also don't want to get my hopes up. So I did, there's a couple different things I pitched to them. After the meeting, I sent him a follow-up email and I mentioned like our idea for a development. If we created, to help fund these gaps, some sort of at the UCOP level, we could do fundraising for pre-doc education or something that can help supplement. So I haven't heard back on that idea, but I don't think it could hurt if we did that. My other questions were, I talked to him about a T32 council, if he would like to be on that at UCSD, which is something that Jurga and Rachel have recently presented on, which I'm hopefully he'll bite into that. So what was my other update? I can't remember now. I've lost my train of thought. Oh, the federal funds. So we talked about. I don't know if your other campuses, and I'd like to know if other campuses have put out any guidance. So our EVC put out guidance in last November, and in the guidance it said we could no longer use federal funds to supplement or whatever you want to call it, additional compensation to the trainees. And so he totally agreed with us, saying, yes, we should be able to, as long as the NIH policy says, as long as it doesn't conflict and it doesn't support the same research. I know a lot of people have different feelings on that, but we at UCSD we've been doing it for years. So we like I said, we have this guidance, and I could put it in the I don't mind sharing it, putting it in the chat. And so I speed forward a little bit. He definitely agreed that we should be able to. He says, who's like, kind of thing, like who's making these decisions? And I thought, it's like I felt like talking to him, like he actually like understood. you know, again. So I did meet, like shortly after that, I met with a bunch of faculty in bioengineering. And we started talking about the UAW, and they have some grievances there. I think I sent an email about this. So, and, you know, of course, it brings into that larger topic of, you know, the GSR gaps and all these types of stuff. So one of the things that was produced out of that meeting is we would like to do like a bullet points and send a formal response to our EVC saying, you know, we disagree. We think we should be able to, I mean, I'm shortening this, right, and bullet pointing it. You know, we agree we should be able to use federal funds. So that we're still working on that. It's very similar, right, to, you know, the kind of thing we wanted to do to Chancellor Drake. You know, that was a letter. This is going to be, I think, a little bit less formal, but at least we're getting it on, you know, we need to get on their radar. That there is an issue here, and a lot of people are grumbling about it on the campus. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update. I feel like we have moved forward as a campus, but then when this one PI brought up the engineering GSR grievances, one of the big things was, well, as soon as they have a grievance here at UCSD, they look at all the other UC campuses and see, oh, what are they doing? And somebody wrote me an email, and it makes sense, right? The UAW sees the UC is like one entity, right? And they want to know, you know, okay, UCSD is doing this. Why does Berkeley or whoever have a different process? Which also like kind of segues into the interpretation, right? We know we have a lot of UAW implementation issues. I don't know if that's the right word. Somebody can correct my verbiage when it comes to they're all supposed to go into UC Path this summer, or yeah, I think it's July 1. So I know Berkeley has a different interpretation than, you know, UCSD, and I'm using that as an example. But so we're not going to be aligned at the UAW level, right? We're not aligned. And so that's not really our issue, right? That's UCOM. UCOM needs to come up with policy, but they haven't yet. So I don't know, is it, you know, worth creating a group where we try to align ourselves on all these issues? Because I know right now, if I brought up the UAW UC Path issue to leadership folks on my campus, they think there's absolutely no issue with having stipends in UC Path. And some people interpret it, like myself, that yes, it goes against NIH policy. So, but, you know, but then if you talk to, I know somebody at UCSB, they think there's absolutely an issue with it. So these are such complicated issues, but how, you know, the group was created to be able to, you know, tackle these kinds of things. Does anybody have any like ideas how we can tackle these things? Alex.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I would think, you know, I will say Davis has yet to have our conversation about transitioning to UC Path, but we're all aware because we talk to other folks like yourself at other campuses. We know it's coming. Those meetings with our graduate studies office started this week. I think there was one at this time, and then there's another on Wednesday. And I share that because it sounds like we're all getting trickled down of the same directive of transitioning to UC Path for total payment. And so in regards of preparing in anticipation for grievance, I think you called it. There are things that are within our control, and there are things that are out of our control. What I would recommend, just from my past experience, being part of employee and labor relation actions and HR actions on campus, is a lot of stuff is going to have to come down to the top, or from the top to us. You know, I think that's a common theme I hear in this discussion is we keep trying to advocate in our individual campuses or through our individual groups for, you know, what we see as pertinent to T32s. But in this regard, I would say we have to settle in that, you know, negotiations are just starting for this new contract. What I would recommend is if there's any trainings like the one I'm attending on Wednesday, I'm starting to save my slides, and I have my slides from the last training. So I'm ready for the inevitable grievances that come to say, okay, here's all the documentation of the training that was provided. Here are the notes that I made of how I sum it up to people. Here is, if I'm in compliance with that NIH, I'm out of compliance with campus. If I'm in compliance with campus, I'm out of compliance with the NIH. And so I have that in writing. My supervisor, my director are aware. And again, that's what is within my control. So that's my 2 cents is document, document, document. That's any employee, labor, or HR. I think step one, no matter what side you're on, is document, document, document. And so what I also recommend is I keep an email draft of just different dates of when different things have started to come down, of when we were notified last year of having to implement stuff in a tight turnaround. I know some people on semester, but right, we didn't have too much time, weeks. And then technically we were out of compliance during that time while we were figuring stuff out. So there's precedent set that when the call comes to say from the UC to say, okay, what's your evidence in this particular area? And that's where, again, I think contacting leadership and making sure, like for us at Davis, our T32 council, has their ear to the ground of when these conversations are happening locally. So that way it can filter up in anticipation of this. It's going to take over a year, right? We're just getting into contract negotiations now. So thank you for letting me share. That's my 2 cents.
No, I really appreciate it, Alex, and I appreciate you when you responded last week, which I never got back to. I mean, so is it, it comes down to, what we can control, right? And what we can do as a group. I feel like we do have a voice, right? But is it, how would we even know how to tackle this kind of stuff if we all are on different, especially if we're all not aligned on something? Is it worth being aligned, right? I mean, I guess there'll be less grievances for all of us, right? So is it worth trying to get, a subcommittee together, and then we can get all the main players at each campus, we can get them together. But, is that worth our time? I just need thoughts on what people think about it.
Would the benefit be reducing our liability? I'm just curious, what are the, if the stakes are for universities from grievances, it seems like that work belongs to someone else. Like that seems like much bigger work than our work. If the stakes are protecting ourselves and each other, is it down to us to take care of, to fix what is UC Davis's problem, or to fix what is UCOP's problem?
Yeah, obviously, right. It's not gonna, we can't control UCOP. Yeah, we have our own campus, right? But I mean, I don't know, like, I don't even understand like the grievances. Is there like, it's not like we get fined, right? Or do we? I assume we don't. I have no idea how that process works. So
Grievances are collected, which are then taken to either, it depends on where you're at in the bargaining cycle, like it's used collectively at bargaining time to say, look at how egregious you are, you naughty UCs. And then it can also, say, depending on, again, where you're at in a contract and how it's dependent, because then it can come down to an individual, right? In theory, like if it's someone who's not getting paid correctly, the longer that goes out, the more that back pay that person's owed. And so, but I think a point was hit here that really is the main crux, in that why I mentioned adhering to your and saving documentation is because, and I don't think this is a true liability, but where employees can get themselves in trouble is when you start to veer from the guidance, from from what's been given to you as the directive, that starts to open up the personal liability. That's when the UC can turn around and say, well, in this grievance, that employee, Alex Lopez, should not have done that. She was not acting in accordance with the training we gave her on how to administer a GSR training. And usually it has to be super, like, you know, I paid out of my pocket to make sure a student paid rent, and then I tried to get that reimbursed, right? We all know that would not be acceptable, but that is the logic that would be turned around that would get me as a coordinator, as an example here, in trouble, is if I deviated from whatever campus said because somebody else said it. It's on the campus and the UC to fix this. All we can do is say, this is causing trouble for us, and you have given us no solution. It's not on the NIH to meet us where we're at. This is a UC-wide problem. This is a UC campus problem. And to your point, Jill, if they're going to be looking at UCD, UCSD, UCI, UCR, all of us, they're going to know. They're going to have the data. They're going to have it collected. And so again, I think, you know, I appreciate the call for a committee, but I think it was said where I don't think it's on us. I think we just have to be ready for when the call of evidence comes, or when inevitably I'm preparing for grievances, because it's just part of how our process is administered right now for all of us. I can only focus on what's in my PD and what's in my scope. And I think this group has other worthwhile opportunities and projects that it can accomplish great things on. And I think, again, as long as we as a group can agree that we're prepared, understanding that all of our campuses have different nuances, different systems, but we agree on this, I think that speaks volumes. And when it's time to turn the volume up, we'll all be ready. Again, that's just my thought. So thank you.
I like that, Alex. Yeah, I think we just have to accept the fact that, you know, it's gonna have to, we just have to kind of do what we're told. I hate to say it that way, but we have to do what the directives say, right? And, you know, be prepared that one day when they come back and say, well, you know, we have some sort of collective answer.
I had an HR boss tell me once that I'll share that kind of changed my perspective on things like this, where I was in my career at the time, and they said to me, you know, Alex, I was trying to make sure everything was in compliance, was okay. And she just turned to me and she said, Alex, you know, I appreciate it, but sometimes you got to let things fall through the cracks so other people can see what the true problems are. We won't have you forever. And I say that to this group, we won't have all of you forever. And we all do our best at our job. And so this is an opportunity to show what I call a pinch point that would exist whether or not we were doing our best to make sure it wasn't as much of an issue. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I wanted this group, and the idea behind the group when we created it was to find solutions for this stuff, not just to create another committee. You know, or another meeting for people. You know, I just don't want to have all these like continuing meetings with faculty that are at bioengineering up in arms because they don't know what to do because our campus isn't telling them what to do. There's no guidance. I can't have, you know, 10 of these meetings all the time. And then I'm saying the exact same thing. No, I don't have the resources to take care of that, blah, 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 blah. And people just have had enough of that. So like I said, I'm just trying to come up with solutions, or, you know, maybe we're not talking to the right people, or I don't know. So the right person hasn't shown up yet.
Maybe the right answer is to document every time someone asks you about this, and then take that to, like, you know, vice chancellor or somebody and say, look, I've been approached about this specific topic X number of times from X number of departments, and there's no guidance, and I don't feel like I should be responsible for answering their questions. You know, maybe that's the answer because that's beyond you, but somebody needs to know that all these people are asking you about it.
I mean, we're having a change of leadership too with our graduate division. The dean is leaving, and so maybe you know, the tide will change and communication will be better with the next leadership, blah, blah, blah. You know, that is one big issue, but the absence of guidance is a scary thing. That's exactly true, Rachel. And I don't, then all of a sudden I feel like there's pressure on me. People look and say, hey, Joe, what's the T32 guidance on this? I'm like, oh, campus hasn't told
That's what
me.
happens when you become a subject matter expert. You're regarded as the subject
Yeah, I know.
matter
And
expert on all things related to the subject.
yeah. So anyway, we're kind of, now this is becoming just a rant session. So, is there anything? Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, I think you hit a great point though. I think that maybe that is the question that can be an agenda item on one of these meetings of, like, in my personal opinion, if I were to say who should be the subject matter expert on this, it should be my graduate studies office. It should be my office of research office. There is a position that, you know, that is wonderful, but that I feel is underutilized, undertapped in these conversations, and her name is repeatedly brought up, but I don't know, you know, but I think again it needs to be coming from central units.
Totally agree.
That's how it always should come, and those central units should be getting it from the UC, and
Right.
that's where again the how it rolls, right? If the grad studies that on our campus can turn around and say, hey, this is a continual thing we are hearing from our training grant folks, that empowers them, and I'm sure of a slew of things that they need answers on, not just with GSR trainees, but TAs and GSRs. That can be a bullet item on their list. So, you know, I think it means a lot to be able to say, okay, you know, the T32 folks or the training grant consortium, you know, unanimously or 90% agree that central administrative units, i.e. grad studies, can be the focal point of support in this, and that this is on average how many times, you know, that could be a survey, that doesn't even have to be a meeting. How many times have you been asked a quarter or semester about this, and share that.
And that's the advantage of having the T32 council. Then the council would just write a letter or invite the VCR or whoever they need. And when they invite them to their meetings, that would help a lot as well.
Yeah, this is when I wish we had a T32 council that could kind of stand up. You know, we have just random PIs talking to leadership at different times and you know, yeah, I just feel like there's a collective right now at UCSD.
In the meantime, even if you have 3 faculty that are coming to you, they can just write a letter to the dean of a grad division or invite them.
But I should probably just come up with a template for them, and then they could just put their name in, insert your name here, and then send it off to the EBC.
Yeah, if you start the letter, they will be very happy to add to it, but they're not going to start it. So
yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, a lot of them have. Yeah, a lot of them.
Let's touch base. I have multiple PIs that myself that would probably be willing to sign that letter.
Okay, so, but then here we go. Like, okay, someone else needs to create the letter, write the letter. Who would like to? Okay, go for it, Nova. It's
for our campus or for health sciences.
I think we should do it to the campus. You know, because it affects the whole campus. So
I can draft a letter for our campus and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, yeah, because I would really like to do that. I just you know, even if we did letters or emails on a local level, right, to get our sending it to leadership, you know, I have no problem. Now that I met the vice chancellor, I think he's my best friend, so I'm just gonna send him an email. Now it's probably gonna get deleted, but you know, who knows? Maybe if enough of us did it, right, like a little secret campaign. You know,
and that seems like, I mean, that's the whole point of this consortium, is to get together and, you know, not necessarily just have a rant session, but to pinpoint pain points and decide, you know, as a group, what the best steps are to help relieve those pain points across the board. You know, not to decide that we have to take some action, but to agree in a general sense who should be taking the action and then go lobby them to take that action. That's the point of the consortium,
Yeah.
I think.
So the only other thing, I think we've kind of talked enough. I didn't think we were gonna have a whole hour here, but we have almost an hour. The only thing I wanted to bring up was we don't have a topic for the June meeting. So does anybody have any thoughts or ideas? Is there something that you would like to see presented on? And from the consortium or one of us, does anybody have any input on June topics?
Maybe we should review the letter at some point, like, and get back to that, because that was one of the first things we decided we wanted to do with this group. Maybe we should look at it during a meeting just to review again. Maybe not for the whole meeting, but that might come back to something we originally wanted to do, but has,
Well, actually, that's a good idea. We could create like a talking points, right? We can say, and that's what I'm hoping to get from bioengineering is, talking points. And when I talked to that one chair in bioengineering, he was like, you mentioned something in that meeting. What was that? And I said, okay, well, a lot of them want to hear the talking points when they're talking to leadership right now. One of them being the case is, how many training grants on your campus aren't being renewed because of the UAW issue? What departments are heavily impacted? What are some of the other campuses doing? And so I told him, I said, I know there's, one PI that he's like, I don't want to hire grad students anymore. I'm just gonna be hiring, project scientists or whatever. And so those are the kinds of talking points when you say that to, if your PI is having a conversation or at the faculty club talking to somebody, he can just go boom, boom, boom and say, and that makes an impact, right? It's like a little elevator speech. Maybe that's something we want to do. If a T32 talking points, send it out, people can read it, and then they can, next time they're in a conversation with someone or in an email, say, hey, yeah, I heard biology, they're not, submitting any more new renewals or, new training grants because of the UAW issue. I don't know, that maybe sound like a good idea? Yeah, so anyway. I don't like the Zoom silence. At least if I could hear people like, okay.
We need like a laugh track or a laugh track or a murmur track where you can hear
one of those
people
like
are,
the automatic applause, what are the fake
right.
applause? Yeah, like the old TV shows. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if that sounds, I could start a document on that and have people they can add to it. I mean, it'd be helpful to know maybe there's a scenario that happened on a different campus that, if we told our leadership, hey, UC Davis, they just lost a major training grant because of this, blah, blah, blah. Those little, nuggets of information might help our cause.
It definitely will. I am facing a completely different problem at the moment. We are working on GANs, and the GANs, the trainees are not part of the union, and that's the other problem. So because they are not part of the union, they don't get paid enough. So it's just like yeah.
So did you say the GAN, GAANN?
GAANN, yeah.
Yeah, I did one of those grants a long time ago. It's Department of Education, right?
The Department of Ed, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's on need basis, and that's the reason why they are not included in the union, but it's just very difficult for the GSRs. So if it's not one thing, it's the other. And yeah, so we're about to fall on our faces, just like working so hard to just send the grants, but a lot of problems left and right.
Yeah, that brings back some heavy nightmares there for me. I remembered working on that grant, and they have all the matching, right?
So now you know why I look like this. I'm just about to fall.
I think you look great, Jurga. Anyway, so we could go ahead and close the meeting. Does anybody have any other questions? I'll stay on for a little while. If you have any specific questions, when I did send out an email or communication the other day, somebody asked questions about 525 deadline and budget. So if you have any kind of questions like that, let me know. Or attend office hours this week. So thanks you guys for coming, and I appreciate the Zoom silence, of course. We need that, like the little laugh, the fake laughs. Yeah, the fake applause. Yeah, there you go. Anyway.
Well, thank you as always, Jill, for hosting.
Thank you, Alex. You bring a lot to the table, and I appreciate everybody's input. It's great. It's really helpful. And I think if anything, it just makes me feel like, okay, I'm not alone in all this. So in this fight. Yeah. So.
Well, thank
Cool.
you again. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks very much, Jill.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I'm just frustrated because I'm like, I like to get stuff done, and I haven't really accomplished anything significant. So,
I appreciate that you stopped recording when you stopped recording, but it's like it just feels so very obviously